Welcome to Brilliant Women in E-commerce series of interviews as part of International Women's Day March campaign, Embrace Equity. My name is Emma Bagley. I'm your host. I'm also the founder of Zeal Agency, a digital marketing agency specialising in Amazon. Today, I'm delighted to be interviewing Hannah Leah, the Operations Director at Hampers.com. Hello and welcome, Hannah.
Hi Emma, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this with you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, so please can you tell me a little bit more about Hampers.com and your role that you play within Hampers.com and how it has been so successful over the past few years?
Yeah, sure. So I joined Hampers.com just under 4 years ago when the business was acquired by my family. And when we bought the business, it was very much a case of it was kind of a different proposition, as I would say, as to what we kind of wanted it to be. So we could kind of see that it had some real gold in it and some real value in it. It just needed to be extracted. So we worked on looking at what the strategy for the business was going forward, how we could make a proposition that was, truly focused on our customers and our consumers, and how we could, really be a business of positive change and sustainable. So those were the key factors, really. And when in 2019, when the business was acquired, we turned over £7 million a year, and now we're probably turning over around 13 million. So obviously we've seen some substantial growth in that period, helped a lot by COVID, which has been good, but also just in terms of reinvesting in that proposition. So we're looking at high quality food and drink gifts, and we send out around 350,000 of those a year.
Amazing. So thank you for that. So huge growth and I'm sure lots more growth potential in Hampers.com as well. In terms of e-commerce then, is your business fully e-commerce? And if so...
Yeah, sorry. It's 70% e-commerce. So we trade 50% of our revenue on our e-commerce website, Hampers.com. We also sell on Amazon. And then we have about 25% of our business that's offline corporate. So we have big companies come to us for big client gifts, big staff gifting. And the biggest order we've had to date on that is around 22,000 units going to various addresses all around the UK, which is very exciting. But it's an exciting growth part of our business.
And in terms of that split, then, would you like to see the corporate gift market becoming more significant within your mix?
So, but I think that really our biggest growth point in terms of that is probably our website and e-commerce, to be honest with you. It's that's seen the biggest growth, where over the last 3 years, offline corporate has probably stayed around the same in the 3 years, whereas website has probably grown by about 50% in that time, which is just a testament really to kind of the product, the proposition, and our brand getting out there slightly more than it was in the past.
Wonderful, thank you. So obviously this interview is all in celebration of International Women's Day in March. So may I ask, what does Embrace Equity mean to you, and what does Hampers.com do to support equity as a whole?
So for me, it's all about making sure that women have as much an equal say as men in the organisation, I would say, and making sure that there's fairness between all genders, really. So for us at Hampers.com, we don't have a gender pay gap at all. We have pretty much 50-50% employees of women and men, and that's on all levels as well, all the way up to the leadership team. So we have a really good blend. And I think for us, that means just having difference of opinions, difference of ways of doing things. And I think to me, when you've got that equality and that mix, you kind of get better outcomes, really, because you've got very different ways of working sometimes. And actually, when you come into the middle, you get a more successful business because of that, because of that, really. And we make sure that we look after all of our staff in terms of what they get with their maternity, paternity, and we pay extra for that to make sure that women have that ability to be mothers and come back to work as well, and support all flexible working as well for those that have gone off to come back into the office as well, and be able to keep on with their careers and also be a mum. So they're really important things for us at Hampers.com.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm sure your employees really value that as well. Has there ever been a particular time in your professional career where you faced, working environment, maybe not necessarily directly at yourself, but a working environment where there wasn't that equitable environment?
Yes, I would say so. And I think probably that drove me when I was, kind of growing hampers.com to make sure it wasn't that environment. But I've previously worked in very male dominated sectors. Previously, I worked in motor finance, and prior to that in defence. So they were all extremely male orientated. And I think the challenges faced mostly there was having a voice at leadership. I think certainly when I started my career, seeing a female on a board just didn't happen. And you didn't have that kind of, like, even though I knew that's where I wanted to be, it was very hard to see how can I get there when there's no representation for me at that level. And also then when you do have a voice, it's getting that voice heard in a large group of men. And that's always, I think, the biggest challenge, and is making sure that, your opinion and voice is valid, and making sure that's heard. And yeah, there's been numerous occasions where you kind of have to, like, almost work twice as hard to get your voice heard as it would be if you were a male at the table. I've definitely found that over the course of the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So that might lead on to my next question, actually, then. So you reflected on the fact that in previous careers roles, you've not had that kind of role model or seen that kind of pathway up to senior leadership. So has there been an inspiring female professional, or celebrity professional or professional within your own career that's inspired and motivated you, has been that kind of like that light to look at and follow?
I mean, I was sad to say it's more of a celebrity than it is someone in the real world, because I love and adore Karen Brady so for me, just like seeing her championing her way through, and every time I've listened to her speak, she does it eloquently as well. And I think that's one thing that sometimes, when females get into that leadership position, it's making sure that you keep the strength of being a female as well as being a leader. And I think that's really important for me. And there's a lot of stuff that you can learn and listen from listening to Karen. So I think that for me was probably, she's, and I wish that there was more focus on successful female business leaders in the press, and that there is currently, really. And in order to be successful now, you have to look a certain way and be a certain way, and it'd be nice to see more focus on successful business women in general.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and one of the reasons I'm organising these interviews as well. And Karen Brady has just been a huge role model for me as well. I really, really, really like her. I wish she started her own podcast, and then it just seems to have just died. I really wished she would start one up again. Because I love everything that she just talks about, and everything that she kind of is passionate about. Okay, so back to business then. In terms of e-commerce, what would you say is the biggest challenges facing your e-commerce channels right now, and what strategies are you finding are the most successful? So biggest challenges and what strategies you're finding the most successful.
So our biggest challenge now is cost of advertising. For us, obviously, and we're very kind of, I would say, immature when it comes to this. In fact, that when we bought the business, it was solely focused on PPC and SEO as the sole strategy. And really, in the last couple of years, we haven't moved away from that. Now, looking at the increased cost of PPC, it's become, cost per acquisition has become unfathomable for us in terms of the average order value. So that's our biggest challenge, as well as then looking at our increased cost of goods. So for us, the biggest one now is looking at how we can overcome that and face different ways of acquisition. One thing that we're looking at doing to overcome this is look at different paid advertising models. I think we're definitely late to the party on that, and we'll admit that. But then also looking at how we can retain our existing customers and focusing on loyalty as well. So that's a big thing for us, that we're focusing on how we can retain and make our customers that have bought once with us buy more than once, and also then how we can acquire new customers and grow our brand. Hampers.com isn't the biggest brand name out there. We've got our product, we've got our proposition, but we haven't shouted about it enough yet. So that's key for us in the next year.
Have you got any exciting plans that you'd like to share with us? Is TikTok part of your strategy?
Yes, as an avid non-TikTok user myself, TikTok is definitely one of the things that we're looking at how we can do. I've seen other brands that I've spoken to at networking events that have made a huge success of being on TikTok. So I definitely think that's for us, and even things like YouTube as well that we know that we want to go down and like look at buying. So for us, our average age is around 30 to 50 in terms of purchasing. So we definitely think that there's a market there for us.
TikTok's an exciting area, certainly. The women that I've spoken to on these interviews are definitely moving in that direction, whether that's full TikTok shop or, just advertising via TikTok. So let's watch this space in terms of e-commerce.